So the Bricks 2.4 beta released yesterday and brought with it a ton of really useful new options and features. Today in this video, we're going to focus on some of the not quite so high key, but ones that I still think are incredibly useful. Now, it brought with it the AI options with connection up to the MCP. I've dedicated an entire video to that, which I will link down below. And also better WooCommerce integration with a bunch of useful features there. Again, I've created a separate video, which I will link down below. So you can check those out in detail. I'm not going to rehash the same things in this video. No, we're going to focus on some of the other features, like I say, which I think are still incredibly useful. So what are we starting off with? We've got the Builder browser. What the hell is the Builder browser, Paul? Let me show you. So if we come into the Bricks editor and we come up to our browser, or we use Command Shift and the period, or full stop from the UK, you can open this up, and this is the browser. Now, this is a much more centralized, useful location to handle pretty much all of your site structure, whether that's templates, components, or native WordPress pages, posts, and so on. You've also got access to your style manager, your fonts, and so all those kinds of cool things. So this means you don't have to go through multiple different locations. You can handle it all inside here. So before we go any further, let's maximize this out, and you can go to full screen. So if you have a lot of information, this sort of full screen gets rid of all the junk around the outside of your screen. So let's take a quick look. First of all, templates. Pretty standard and obvious. We've seen this before, so now we have a template viewer inside here. We can obviously preview these with a full screen preview, and if it's not automatically created, you can simply click to generate screenshots. And the import images and content options are all still here. So this is all stuff you've seen before. We've got the source, so we've got my templates, but we've got wireframes, which are the native wireframes that ships with Bricks. So they're all listed inside here as well. And as you can see, we can still filter through. And any other sort of template sources you may have, if you added in custom template sources, you can access those inside here as well. So that's pretty cool. Nothing too drastically different. So we won't spend too much time. Components now actually gets its own dedicated area, and that works in basically the same way as your templates. You can see I've got a couple of different components here, and each one of these gives us a visual preview of that component. And obviously we can come in, we can choose to edit this, duplicate it, export it, delete it, or generate screenshots. So if we make changes, we may want to update it. You'll also notice that it tells us how many instances of this, the title of it, and so on. So there's, again, a lot of useful information here. We can check out the usage, so we can see, is this all usage, used on the current page, used elsewhere, or unused. So if you've created components and you've decided you don't want to use them, you could come into the unused ones, and you could easily then just go and remove them if you wanted to. Obviously, back up and export before you do. But this kind of ties in if you want to have a kind of shared resource across multiple different sites. This is a nice way to handle that aspect. Again, we've got options then for our categories, and we've got some basic options at the top for generating screenshots, importing, and switching between the different views that we've got. Your posts, as its name would suggest, shows the posts inside WordPress. So if you want to kind of stay out of WordPress to handle certain aspects, you could do that, and you could use this browser option. And from here, we can edit this in WordPress, duplicate it, or we can view it. So pretty cool. Nice little sort of centralized location. Same thing goes for pages. And again, obviously, we get the ability to filter these based upon various different options like all, publish, draft, and so on. And we can choose how we want to sort them. Product, because obviously we got, if you have WooCommerce installed, you'll have the product options here. So it's basically pulling this in. And if you create your own custom post types, that should be pulled in as well. So that's pretty nifty. We've also got media inside here. So we can also view our media from our media library. So this is already a nicer kind of setup to what we have as the native options inside WordPress. And you can obviously choose to go into the media library, reload this. You've got some settings inside here, so you can choose what you want to show, whether you want to show the author, the date, and all those kinds of cool things, and how you want to view it, whether it's a grid or a list, and you can sort things as well. So again, pretty cool. You've got a search at the top should you want to use it. And if you come over any of these, it tells you when it was added, who it was added by, and the file type. So you can see these are videos and MP4s, whereas we've got SVGs, and you've got normal images like WebP and so on. And if you come down, you can preview this, so we can click on view. There's our preview of it. Would be nice if that popped up in a light box, but you know, there you go. And you can edit this in WordPress, so it'll take you over then into the normal options inside your normal media library, which when you look at it now, looks kind of ugly compared to the Bricks version. Then if we come down to the bottom, we've got our managers. So our style manager is also available from here. So you can see there's all our normal styling options. There's our theme styles, classes, variables, etc., etc. And we can jump back into the browser from here as well. Your font manager, so you can handle your fonts inside here. Your icons, the same. You can create your icon sets, and there's also the query manager inside here. So if you have multiple different queries or you want to import queries that you use very often, you can do that from here with the import export options. So pretty cool. The browser is a nice addition, and it kind of starts to make a much more cohesive setup inside Bricks. So I like that. Some nice nifty useful features there. Would I use all of this? I don't know. Probably not use it for the posting of pages and so on, but obviously for your components and your templates, it makes an awful lot of sense. Then let's just put this back to full screen, out of full screen, and go back into our normal setup. Okay, so let's come up this time to our manage option. And you may see there's some new options here. We've got the builder interface and we've got the import and export. Let's focus on the builder interface first of all. This allows you to create a custom interface that you can then set up and assign to either roles, or you can associate it with specific users. So if you wanted to have a much simpler setup for your clients, one of the areas that a lot of people have sort of commented on that, Bricks isn't as client friendly as something like Elementor. Personally, I disagree on certain aspects of that, but there's that thing out there. Well, now you can customize this interface to make it as simple or as complex, or just change the layout for yourself if you prefer a different kind of layout. You can control all of this. You can add or remove any of the kind of features. So let's say, for example, you want to create something simple for your clients. You may not want to give them access to things like the styles. Well, you can come over, click the little X, that's removed, add it to the hidden item section, and you can carry on doing this. Maybe we don't want to give them the command palette, and we don't want to give them the manage option. So we've got a nice simple setup where they can go to the browser, open pages, or choose elements. Then let's just say, for example, the control panel, which is on the left-hand side. Well, we might say we want to put that at the bottom, where you can click and add it to the bottom. You can then say, well, the structure panel, we want to put that on the left. And pin controls, you can add where you want your pin controls. So that's quite cool. And then you can also set up then, if you've got the bottom dock layout, how many columns you want to have inside there and so on. And you can set up how those columns actually interact and the pin controls, etc., etc. If you want to then bring these over and put them somewhere else, let's say, for example, we want to put those back in, but we like them over here. Well, we can add them there. Same thing goes for the styles and so on. We can add that back in there. And we can now create a completely custom layout. Once we've done that, we can simply come over to choose Save As. We'll call this Sample Simple Layout. Click OK. You can see that now allows us to load it, save it, overwrite it, rename it, or delete it. But we can also assign it to our profile. So if we click Assign Profile, we'll open a new tab up. And inside there, you can assign that. So where we've got the Builder Interface Profile, we may say for the editors, we want to give them the simple layout. There we go. Save settings. And now anyone that's got the editor role that signs in will have that simplified setup. You can obviously come into your users. And let's open one of these users up and just edit them. Now if we come down, you can see there's the builder interface profile currently set to sample simple. Well, we may say we want them to have the test layout and update that user. So even though these are an editor, they're going to have a different experience to the other editors because we've given them access to a slightly different profile for the builder layout. So this is a nice way of being able to control the exact types of layout that you give to either user roles or specific users. Again, a nice addition. Not groundbreaking, but it does mean you can customize things for specific users and keep things as simple or as complex as needed. So coming back into the settings and options we have, let's open up the import and export option, because previously importing or exporting things like your variables, your classes, maybe your sort of design styles and all those kinds of things were individual exports and individual imports, which meant that it wasn't difficult, it was just a little bit clunky and time consuming. Well, the new import export option gives us a centralized location to handle all of our import and export options. So theme styles, classes, variables, color palettes, settings, queries, custom fonts, templates, all those things are available here for us. And as you can see, currently we have nothing chosen, but you can simply enable the option. We can click on this little sort of drop down, and inside there we can choose what theme styles are available. So that's quite nifty. Come back out of that. You can enable your classes, and you'll see every time you sort of go over any of these, you'll get the little cog icon, and we can then come in and we can handle things in a more granular fashion. So we may say we want to take all of these for quick, and we'll say, actually, we don't really want to deal with components. We'll take that out, and our breakpoints are fine. So now we've got 251 different items, which we can choose to export, and pretty simple and straightforward. If you click on classes, for example, you'll see this will show us then all of the classes. So we can also choose classes. We may think these are specific to this site. We want to remove those. Well, you can simply uncheck what you don't want, and you'll see then that reduces the various different classes. Same thing for variables. You can do that from here as well. And then nicely organized into the groupings that we've got set up for our variables. Color palettes, all our colors are there. Again, we've got the various different groupings we've got where we create custom color palettes like bricks, wireframes, fancy framework, and so on. We can see them, we can enable them, we can disable them, we can do what we need to. Templates works in exactly the same way. So do your components, icons, queries, settings. All those things are here. And then once we've chosen everything we want, we can simply choose to export it, and that will export it as one single zip file. So let's choose export. You can see that's going to save that as our data, and it's going to be a zip file, which in my example is going to be the most important thing here. And then when you want to import, so let's save this. Now let's choose to import it back in. You can see that now shows us everything that's going to be imported, but it also gives us some very useful error checking. So you can see we've got all, and we've got ready, conflicts, selected, and unselected. So this allows us to very quickly see any conflicts we have and how we want to handle them. So obviously this is a direct import of exactly what was just exported. So there's going to be a bunch of conflicts. But just to highlight it, you can see there's the hero, which is one of our classes. We can choose what we want to do. Keep the existing, or we can choose to replace it. So if you are working with some kind of version control and you've updated some bits and pieces and made some visual changes to like a master sort of file, then you can choose to keep or overwrite as you see fit. Same thing with your variables, same thing with your queries, templates, and so on. So the import export option isn't just a blind import. From an export, it will actually handle the error checking for you, which gives you peace of mind knowing that you can choose to either overwrite or leave the existing one in place. Super useful. Now, there are a bunch of other little quality of life enhancements, tweaks, fixes, bug fixes, and so on in 2.4. I'm not going to cover everything because I would recommend taking a look at the changelog, which I will link down in the details down below. And you can take your time and go through. I wanted to cover the main ones that I thought were probably the most interesting for most users. And as I've said, the AI MCP one is an own dedicated video, as is the WooCommerce one. So we've covered both of those. Check out the links in the description down below. As always, I welcome your feedback. Is 2.4 looking exciting? Or are you just kind of thinking, meh, some nice features in there, but nothing that's going to be groundbreaking for me? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, all applicable links are in the description. My name is Paul C. This is WPTuts. And until next time, take care.